This is the third day of the July-August 91 7-day retreat at Springwater. Here are some of the questions which have come up since yesterday. Before I met you, I had all kinds of images about you. Meeting you, there's been a change. How can one be free of image building, of building up new images all the time, even after meeting? You said yesterday that this work is so vast. Can you say some more about this vastness? Is there a difference between brain and mind? Does one need a teacher and an organization to pursue this work, or can one do it alone? My almost lifelong problem is, how can I be with people without artificiality, without all the programs of trying to be friendly and nice and smiling? Can one be close with each other without all of that? Realizing that there is a deep-seated sense of self, can there be an acceptance of this? If the self is there, why not accept it? Questioning, for me in particular, questioning what is it, is such a serious matter. Does it have to be so serious? Can't it be more playful? Is all intention self-centered? Or can there also be intention which is unself-centered? Is the need for security at the root of all of our wanting and striving? I feel I'm getting emotionally attached to you that is, to Toni. And I'm concerned whether this will lead to dependency. For instance, wanting to get answers from you. Sitting here quietly, allowing thoughts and emotions to quiet down, at times to disappear altogether. Is this an escape from the many everyday problems with which these thoughts were just concerned, involved? So many questions. Where do we start? does questioning have to be so serious? Several people asked that, not just one person. Often, particularly when one is here for the first time, it seems that all the people are so serious. At times it seems so sad, so depressed. To an innocent onlooker. And we did discuss in meeting when this came up, one may misinterpret the absence of a ready smile, the joking lightness with which we often live, the absence of that to think people are sad or depressed or too serious. That's why we were asking in the very beginning, can one abstain, if possible, from interpretation? Or as interpretation maybe inevitably comes up, to see it and to wonder, to question it. Is it really so? I'd have to find out more, wouldn't I? By talking to you this instant. Does one have to be so serious when one asks a question? The way the person who asked this demonstrated, it almost seemed an obsessive way of holding on to this question, which often is trained into us. We have trained with spiritual centers, traditions. We've been conditioned to be obsessive about our practice, not to let go of it like a dog doesn't let go of a bone. And then the question comes up, does it have to be that like this? Ask it and experiment with it. If one wonders what everything is, including oneself, does one have to be tight and tense and ambitious or tough, defensive or obsessive about it? How is one about it? To find that out, doesn't everything in one's body, mind, whatever that is, loosen up to look openly at tightness, to look openly at closedness? Is that possible? If there's a waking up from tight closedness and becomes aware of it, can one look at it lightly? Not look tightly at tightness, in a closed way at closedness, but wondering what this all is. In an airy way. Airy meaning not knowing what it is, not judging it to be bad, wrong, false, right, necessary, unnecessary, but like a child coming to something new and wanting to find out what it is. Feeling it, sensing it, listening to the whole body humming or grating with tension or seriousness. What is seriousness? I recently heard a tape, it was given to me, about a spiritual teacher in India. He was an Indian, talking to an audience and talking very straightforward. One of his themes on that first day, it was a several-day seminar, was that we're all asleep and we don't want to wake up. We don't want to. We want to stay asleep. And he actually is a Catholic, and he was talking to a Catholic audience, I presume, and saying some maybe never heard of things to people. And then he would bring in jokes. And everybody burst out laughing. And the jokes were good. They would be worth remembering to tell someone else. But I wondered whether these jokes also were serving a function to diffuse a serious looking at a serious problem of believing, following, not wanting to listen, not wanting to wake up. And when maybe there was some tension building up or some questioning, then could a joke diffuse it all or lighten it up and raise energy to look some more? I don't know. Sometimes it seemed as though the seriousness of the thing that was questioned was being exploded away with laughter. Maybe this was the only way to, for the first time, I don't know whether it was the first time for this audience, to address these issues, to tread humorously, so people wouldn't just get up and leave. But the things that trouble human beings, individually and socially, are very serious. Fighting with each other, not talking with each other, withdrawing from each other, saying injurious things about each other, to each other and to others about others, and all this involvement in weaponry, warfare, killing, destroying is serious matter, isn't it? And yet, in looking at oneself, how one is so tightly questioning something, pursuing something, can there also be a humorous looking? Making some fun of oneself and each other. How we are so seriously engaged in pursuing our ends. It's a good thing to keep in mind, to wonder about. We can't just laugh things away, but to laugh as we're looking and investigating about our so see, it's difficult to use the same word for two different things. Our problems are serious. The state of the world is a serious one. Dangerous. Cannot be looked at casually or frivolously. And yet, to be obsessive about trying to solve it, finding a practice to penetrate it or get away from it, and then no openness or lightness or sense of humor about oneself. This question, in sitting here in this beautiful, quiet, airy room, and the mind actually slowing down, quieting down. The way the person put it, really getting tired of thinking of all the problems that beset one day in and day out, and now still thinking some more while sitting here, getting tired of it. And with that, the thoughts petering out. And there being some quiet moments where the wind and birds and Insects are heard. The breeze is felt. Is that an escape? Asks thought. Thought comes in there again, sneaks up and says, you're escaping. Or are you escaping? Am I escaping? What is escape? See, one has to question further. Often we ask one question and then we react emotionally to this question. We're already embroiled again with emotions. I shouldn't be escaping. Why am I doing this? This is wrong. Guilt. I should be facing my problems, not even knowing what facing means, because thinking more and more about our problems is not facing them. One of our problems is to constantly think about our problems. Circularly, round and round and round. So what is escape? Is sitting here, quieting down and listening to what else is there beside our all-involving thoughts and worries and emotions and organismic feelings about it. Is that escape? Is getting in touch what else is there beside our troubling thoughts? Is that escape? The quietness of trees and leaves rustling in the wind. The quietness of the beating of the heart, the breathing. The people around one. For a few days, maybe 1 or 2, maybe 7 days, is that escape? Thought may label it such. Our friends or relatives may say that to us. People we work with may say, you're just escaping. What is escape? Is it escape when we deny our problems, say we don't have any, and we put a smile over them? Repress what wants to be felt, as sadness or anger. Repress it. I'm not angry, or I shouldn't be angry. I'm not sad, everything is fine. I'm happy. Telling oneself, suggesting to oneself how one should be. Is that escape? Or taking all kinds of substances so the thinking is blurred, or some chemical stimulation happens in the body which temporarily gives a good feeling. Is that escape? One would need to talk over something with someone with whom there has been misunderstanding, hurt. When one could do that, maybe one can't, maybe the person is not interested, but when there is this possibility to look into what we do to each other or did to each other, instead withdrawing from the situation, reading books, magazines, watching TV endlessly. Is that escape? It's quite clear, as this person put it, just keeping thinking about the problems of the day is tiring, and it doesn't get any place. One has done it before and found it didn't get any place. There's nothing new in thinking over and over the same track. How better it should be, how bad it is, whose fault it is. What I did wrong, what she did wrong, or they have always been doing wrong. The mind to take a break from that. The brain quieting down in a quiet environment may bring some freshness to looking at how one lives, some new insight. At the root of one's problems, always wanting something other than what is, not understanding how things come about, how they are sustained, and with a quiet mind, the possibility to see something freshly about ourselves and each other, which doesn't happen when the mind is churned up with the same trains of thought that were already our parents and friends and sisters, brothers and teachers. You should do this, you shouldn't do that. Pull yourself together, work harder. Be good, be better. Find where the blame lies and things like this. There's something very nourishing about thought quieting down and in touchness with the quiet of wind and clouds and water and birds and people sitting here listening quietly. No sound disturbing the silence. Then maybe if a thought comes up again about a problem of one's daily life, maybe it can be seen anew in a fresh way. Or is the body immediately responding, which often happens. One thought and the anger is there, or the fear is there, or the sadness is there, the grief. But maybe having touched the silence, there will be insight into thought, triggering sensation, emotion, sadness, anger. To see the connection, how it works, how it is maintained by further thought. To see it, not to do something about it. Not that it shouldn't be like this, because it is like that. To see freshly, wholesomely what is going on in ourselves may have its own quiet action. Not conspicuous, not spectacular. Quiet. Somebody asked yesterday in a group meeting, what is there a difference between the brain and the mind? It's a very difficult question to get into. I don't want to end up with definitions, because everyone may have a different definition. But I do use the word brain, I do use the word mind, or body-mind, because whatever we label mind is not separate from whatever we label body. Brain being maybe the central coordinator of thought and memory and reaction. Not always the originator of memory, but the coordinator. of memory, thought coming from memory. Without memory, I couldn't think. The brain stores memory of everything that's happening and has happened, has been said, has been thought about, is stored and becomes like a program instantly to trigger reactions in the present moment. Also coordinates, of course, all the organisms functioning. And it's busy constantly to know, to compare, to interpret, to bring up fantasy and then initiate desire, thinking of something and then wanting what one is thinking about, or thinking of something and fearing what one is thinking about. The brain is involved in all of that, as well as the rest of the organism. But how much the brain is involved in all of this is noticeable when the brain quiets down, when it becomes quiet up here. Then also the organism quiets down to its normal functioning, and things are heard and perceived which are not heard and perceived when the brain is busy thinking, remembering, comparing, interpreting, striving, desiring, fearing. And in that process, well, let's first talk about seeing, becoming aware of this process, awareness of it, an insight into it. Maybe quick as lightning, or there may be a sustained awareness, which can look, how to ask a question and look, how does this thought trigger this emotion? See it, experiment with it. Is this awareness of the brain? This constant functioning. And one finds that when there's awareness, there is no busyness in it, activity in it, wanting or fearing in it. It is quietness in which what just happened is reflected like in a mirror, seen for what it is. So we do talk about awareness. Is that awareness the same as mind? I don't want to get into this, into words. Rather, to watch what is going on in thought and memory and comparing and the body responding. One can call all of that the mind being busy, being active, being involved, or the mind being quiet. Actually, if one would say, the mind is quiet right now, which it is not actively churning, wanting, comparing. It's looking and expressing, but quietly. Then this body here is not separate from this mind because it's also quiet, even though it is moving, but it is not pained or agonized or in tension. It is an alive thing, like the trees rustling, or the birds or cicadas singing. As one person said yesterday in the meeting, neither brain, nor mind, nor trees, nor body is really a thing. Thought makes it a thing, and then the reaction reacts to the thing that thought has made. But in sitting quietly and openly, what thing is there? Everything is alive and undefined or undefinable. Where does the breeze end and and the feelings start. The body feeling. Isn't it one process of breeze and feeling the coolness? What is what? I don't know. This question just comes to mind. I feel that I'm getting emotionally attached to you. I get concerned over that. Because will that mean dependency? On what you say and on the answers you give. Can one look? Can one look at emotional attachment to a person? And was this other question. The problem of my life has been the artificiality with which I have related to people. Trained to be friendly, to smile, courteous. But the distance, the remoteness, and wanting to be close without artificiality. I don't know whether these two things go together. Two things came up in the mind, in thought. So let's go back to the first one, getting emotionally attached. The person who is giving the talk meets with people. Sometimes there have been people here, psychologists or psychoanalysts, who have said this is an inevitable process. It has to happen in therapy, particularly for healing to take place. There has to be this transference to the person who is the therapist. And the same is probably going on here. We have been told that. And each one can examine this. This is not to be denied or brushed away. Can we look at emotional attachment, not just to the person who's talking here, Toni? What are the ingredients of it? The ingredients of dependency. It goes with the question, is everything we do, all of our striving, based on the need for security? The security of finding a mother, an all-giving mother. I'm not describing myself. I don't feel as an all-giving mother. I don't even feel as a mother. But this is what may be going on. So one can be alert. A person who brought this up was alert to this thing happening. And watch it. Things are not said here, or meetings don't take place to bind people to me, or to create a bond between each other. Even though if that happens, what is going on in it? Is it dangerous? Is it dependency? That one can't do anything without asking Toni? Or in asking Toni something, can we both look freshly? From not knowing, starting from not knowing. Because that's the essence of this work here, of talking and meeting, is for each one of us to see for ourselves, not to take the word of another for the truth. And if that really happens, if one sees something for oneself, there's no dependency in that. And you don't depend on me or someone else. You see for yourself. directly, actually, yes, this is so. Or if you see it's not so, then let's look at it together again. Maybe I expressed it falsely. Need correction. I'm not all-seeing, all-knowing, omniscient, omnipotent, infallible, all of these attributes we like to give to people to feel secure in having found someone like that. That's dangerous because it atrophies this capacity we all have to see for ourselves directly, instantly. Maybe it's helpful if someone talks and points something out. But that someone doesn't need to be just one person. How do we listen to each other? Do we give value to one person and no value to another? Therefore, we don't listen to this person. It happens very frequently here. Somebody will say something and someone else will say, "Oh, you're just parroting Toni." The person didn't listen or didn't question further. What do you mean by that? Find out whether the person is parroting or whether he, she sees something for herself. And therefore can talk out of the seeing. Our need for emotional attachment. I won't go into right now what this all is. I don't even know what a person all means by that. We would have to look at it further. But I have a notion. Our need for emotional attachment may come from the very fact that we don't stand on our own 2 feet and look and question and see for ourselves, or realize that at this moment we are not looking for ourselves, we're depending on someone else. That's already an insight. But with standing on one's own feet, looking for oneself, there may be a diminishing of this need for emotional attachment. Although it's marvelous to feel affection for each other, to love each other, to be warm and friendly, not artificially but genuinely, out of an overflow of that. There's something wonderful about that. Quite marvelous. But if it is genuine, not artificial, and doesn't come out of neediness, then it need not bind. It needs not to possess the other person as an object of one's emotional or friendliness, as a possession. Now needing to hold on to this, jealousy coming up if this person is also friendly with someone else. Find out this work. Somebody said, "What do you mean it is vast?" It's as vast as this life is. Every moment is a new moment for things to be discovered about our conditioning, our ways, our stuckness, and our freedom. Find out from moment to moment what's happening in ourselves and in all the people around us. It's as vast as this life is. As long as our life lasts, we can discover things about ourselves and each other, and also be quiet together, without that being an escape from another. Because there is a deep sharing of this silence when you and I are both silent. There's no separation in that. No withdrawal, no escape, but maybe a tapping of the source of love. Does the question come up, the thought come up, how can I tap this source? This is what I want to do. But this is creating an idea and then striving to reach that goal, that idealized, fantasized goal. The work is always here, not in fantasy, in the distance, in the future. It's here. And if there's a feeling of closeness or artificiality, can one feel it, touch it, see it, listen to it? Quietly, without marching in with a regiment of armament, troops, war. Just listening to closeness, feeling of isolation or alienation. Listen to it. Not to turn on the radio or the show. The show is inside. For this moment, I'm not saying all day long now sit for 24 hours. That would be making a technique out of it again. But when it's there and it aches, confuses, drags, tenses the whole organism. What is it? Sit quietly with it. This feeling of separation. And don't call it that anymore. We don't need names and labels when there is quietness with what is. Because it isn't one thing. It's the whole thing. Everything. And also nothing. Quietly nothing. Not a thing. Just what's there. Not obsessively, what is it, what is it, what is it? The question doesn't even have to be asked. The whole state of body-mind is open to look and listen quietly, not trying to change or fight or escape. One doesn't know what to do. end here for today.